of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Can we do a roll call?
Yep, turn on Sandy's.
Oh. Sorry. Is it mic on? There we go.
Butler,
Here.
Balich,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Pretzel,
Here.
Van Dyne,
Present.
Dean Schlappman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay.
Oh,
Sherry.
I talked to you all morning.
We got it.
Wow.
Sorry.
We got a quorum, that's all.
Okay. All right. No, it's okay. You can stay. All right. Can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes from the July 3rd meeting?
Second Butler.
Roll call, please.
Butler,
Yes.
Balich,
Yes.
Parker,
Here. Yes.
Pretzel,
Yes.
Van Dyne,
Yes.
Newquist,
Yes.
Dean Schlappman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. So under old business, we have the review of the solid waste plan. And I know that it's something that we need to get done and move forward. However, I just thought it was too important to just rubber stamp it. So I'm hoping that people took some time to look through some of it and that there are some questions, concerns. So I think, did I see Marta? Can you come up? Because I know once they, if there are questions over it, then we can. Thank you, ma'am. I know it's been out there and given, but Marta, if you could just speak to a little bit what you guys did, maybe if there's any significant changes, and then if anyone has any questions, I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to ask them. So we need to turn your mic on. Can you? Thank you. All right. There you
Good
go.
morning.
Good morning.
So I know it's a rather daunting and long document, but I do want to assure all of you that it's pretty much in line with the current solid waste plan that we've been working under the last half a dozen years. And basically, we had a 55% diversion, which under the last plan was a big leap forward. We did not meet that. We did have China stop accepting a lot of recyclables, if you remember that. I talked about that. And that had an impact that was global, it wasn't just against the United States. And then we also had COVID, which increased the amount of material that we're all generating, a lot of PPE that cannot be recycled currently. And then also just a lot of home delivery, which is still going on, which is adding to the waste. So we elected to just propose the same 55% diversion goal. When we proposed it the last time, we knew that it was a stretch goal. We're probably going to have to take some additional steps. And that's why in the appendix, there's a couple of suggestions for acts that we might want to endeavor to do that could help us improve the recycling rate for residential and businesses. Doesn't mean you have to, they're just suggestions. There's probably other things we could do, but it's just something to keep in mind. So we thought that might be helpful. And that wasn't something that was in the old plan, any kind of suggested ordinances. The other thing is we calculated our diversion rate, and it is 47%, which is an increase over the 43%. That's an overall diversion. So that means not only is it the curbside recycling, it's also what we're sending for composting. It's also what we send to C&D facilities to get recycled. And it is also things that go to clean fill. Okay, so those are all things not going into a landfill, and that's what we calculate diversion on. And so that's a really great percentage. I will highlight that the downside is residential recycling has fallen. And again, that goes back to that home delivery kind of thing, as well as mass confusion, quite honestly. There's a lot of misinformation out there. When a cart is taken by a truck, you don't get any feedback if you've put something in there that you shouldn't have. So you'll go on thinking that you could recycle something in the curbside program that while it might be recyclable at a special drop-off, is absolutely not something that the material recovery facilities can sort and market. And so that's just something to keep in mind, that we really do need to do more on education. But when you look at our education pages, we pretty much in chapter 5, we outline all the different educational programs we do, our website, our social media, our newsletter, all these different things that we do, our school education program, and presentations to adults. They're all pretty much the same as they were the last time around. So we're just trying to say we really need to keep funding those. Yeah, other than that, the only other thing I could say is that we're very clear this time on saying that we need to look at expansion to the landfill. And last time we said that, but it wasn't nearly as clearly stated as it is this time. So any moves that we make to pursue that are still in keeping with our current solid waste plan, but we would really appreciate you looking at adopting this plan so that it's crystal clear.
Okay. So are there any, okay, see, there they come. All right, I will start with, yep, so go. Thank you. Start with 6. Julie. Member
Thank you,
Berkowitz.
Katie. First, I want to just acknowledge the tour that we had of the landfill. It was incredible. Very grateful for that. It was eye-opening. You shared with us, Martha, that the garbage created by each person has now increased to, was it 9.5 pounds?
9.2 pounds
9.2
per person
pounds,
per day.
which is stunning. And I know in the past, we've talked about education and ways. I think one way to address this is to support your education opportunities, getting out there, telling people how they can make a difference. In the past, you had mentioned to me that you have a online website focused for the children, that they can go in and do activities, but learn about how to recycle, how to be proactive. But you were having some funding issues. Things were a little tight in your budget to be able to expand that program. After seeing what I saw at the landfill, I think those kind of initiatives really have to come front and center. So how does that stand with you in terms of, your ability to expand that educational tool and get out there with our families?
Yeah, it's been pretty tight. I mean, as you know, you were doing the RNG facility. There's been some other things that have come along that have taken a big chunk of our budget, but we have not updated the website. It was originally designed in 2010. The games that were built for the kids, which were one of the top pages that people visited, teachers loved them, kids loved them, caregivers learned a lot from them. Are built on a platform that's now defunct. So we would be looking probably at $30,000 to $40,000 just on rebuilding those games on a new platform. But again, it took probably 10 years for that platform to go defunct. And so it really was worth the initial investment that we made when we did the whole website. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's not emphasized in the plan. We just mentioned that we have them. We have games too that are not web-based games. Like you can download a cootie catcher. You guys know how to fold up a piece of paper, and you can do a scavenger hunt. You can learn from that. And we do have a number of other games that are out there that don't rely on that platform. But yes.
Is that something you should bring into the plan, the plan? Or-
Well, it is mentioned in the plan that we have the educational outreach, and that's in chapter 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's important. I think it's something to bring forward. And if the only way we're going to change the direction is through education, honestly, because people are oblivious to this. So Let us know which is how you can effectively do that, modernize your system and get out there, and then we can re-engage the public.
And I think
Yep.
I think Julie, that's a conversation that we can have and we can talk about another time, but I want to make sure that we get through, if there's any questions about the plan. So, I know Sherry, Sherry is next. Member Newquist.
Thank you. So I have a question about paint and pharmaceuticals and electronics. I mean, I realize that there's been laws passed and there are supposed to be like collection areas at, various pharmacies and things like that. But for a good example, I have some electronics I need to get rid of, and I've been online. I literally cannot find a site anywhere close to me to take them. And I am really baffled. I'm probably not searching right. I might be looking in the wrong place. The same with pharmaceuticals. And I know I'm supposed to be able to take them to to the police station or whatever, but I cannot find any information about this online. So I know it's probably not our responsibility,
No, it is.
but we,
Listed in the
Yeah,
report.
it's.
yeah, I just
Silly
think
part.
we have to get better at educating people as to where to find these. And my second point was, I'm so glad you brought up the confusing and the need for education too, because yesterday I was actually looking at my garbage company's list of what I can recycle. And it was like, plastic number 8, plastic number 5, plastic this, and I'm like, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. So it was just, I basically threw everything in there, and some of it I'm sure didn't belong.
Bottles,
So
tubs and jugs.
it's,
Bottles, tubs and jugs.
well, they had about a list of
No,
about,
But you don't have to look at the numbers. They're too small and we've gotten away from that. Bottles, tubs and jugs.
okay, see, I mean, that is information
And that's on the
really
front
helps.
page of the website, Will County Green. And so is the electronic recycling program on the front page of the website. And in our social media for June and July, because we didn't have any Saturday events, we did a calendar showing the 8 drop-off sites that we have operating every month for electronics recycling.
But I see, I
So,
think they
but
weren't coming up in
yes.
my area because I'm in the far eastern part of the county.
Yeah.
So when I was searching online, I wasn't finding anything except for there's a commercial facility that charges you to dispose your electronics,
Right.
Anyway, thank you.
No, I appreciate hearing that though. So it sounds like we need to do something for the East.
Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead,
I'm-
Member Pretzel.
Sorry, I don't want to, I just stole
Oh,
it from,
I'm sorry.
I don't want to get us too far off track, but I do have questions about recycling. Bottles, tubs and jugs. You didn't say anything about cardboard.
Well, just plastics. We were addressing the plastics.
Got
I'm
it.
sorry. So yes, I didn't go through the whole list. That just for plastics, they've stopped asking people to look at the numbers and said bottles, tubs and jugs since 2018.
What about like, when you get like produce, strawberries come in a little plastic bowl with holes in it? What,
Yeah, so that's normally one of the numbers that's acceptable, but back in 2018, they said they didn't want those. Now they're changing their minds and we're seeing that, but we haven't gotten permission to say it on a statewide basis. But when I do a in-person presentation, I tell people to put those in.
I didn't even know that they sent out like a postcard or whatever of instructions. So I have kids and I'm always trying to tell them what to put in the recycle bin because sometimes I go and there's cucumber shavings and stuff. I'm like, that's the wrong thing. But it drives me bananas. But yeah, there's just a lot of uncertainty on what we recycle. I think that we could do a better job of letting people know we really do recycle this stuff, because you're right, there's a lot of misinformation out there on it all goes to the same place. I've heard it 100 times. And some people have told me they've seen it. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe it. But if we could just let them know, here's what we do. And somebody's making money off this stuff, right? Like they're the ones that should.
And not to go too far astray, just to let you know that because the recyclables are taken mostly by private sector firms throughout the state, all of them collected are taken by private sector firms in Will County. It's up to the company whether they want to have their trucks look the same. So their garbage trucks and their recycling trucks for several companies look exactly the
Yeah.
same. And that adds to people's confusion. They'll see the cart get picked up for garbage, and then they'll see the exact same kind of truck separately, different time, come and take the other cart. And they'll tell us, no, that's all going to the same place. We're like, no, we can assure you there are literally millions of dollars being spent to sort this material out, and it is going to the recycling. So, yeah.
Member Butler, I know you had a question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I read the whole report
Thank you.
and I have a lot of experience at dumps. Being in construction, I've been to dumps, I've been to transfer stations, and I get how it works. And I think the education is great for recycling on the residential side, but businesses best learn by their pocketbook. And I understand that it's difficult to sort out recycling. You can't ask a guy who's going commercial pickup to look through each bin to make sure that the proper recycling material's in there, right? And sometimes they put stuff in there that voids out like, a couple tons worth of recycling. So I get the education, that's gonna help for that. But when you have other stuff coming into the dump, a bunch of, different, hazardous waste or what have you, paint or electronics and stuff like that, that can't be dealt with at the dump either, because those are semi trucks are bringing in loads of garbage. So it has to be handled at the transfer stations, right? So I just don't think this plan does enough to reach out to the transfer stations and have something employed, some sort of relationship with maybe scrappers, or a relationship with some people who can recycle other things that aren't as sought after, like metals, right? Because, on Sunday night, I could throw all my metal stuff out. I could do it on Saturday and it'll all be gone, So I get that. People see a value in that. But some of the plastics that you were talking about in the report that they break down to the molecular level, have we researched about these products, like with, they're making bricks and using plastics from it and making super strong, lightweight bricks? I mean, I think that might have went out on one of your flyers and stuff. Like, we need to start partnering with industries like that, and then having people in place at the transfer stations who could help to sort through that stuff. Because right now, the transfer stations, you dump your truck, a truck as big as this room and taller just squeezes it together. So there is no sorting at a transfer station, and that's the only possible place it could be sorted. And dumpsters, when you have dumpsters, couldn't we have like an extra fee for combined garbage? And then people who are putting concrete in a dumpster, they would pay a lower fee because it's one thing, we know what it is. But when it's mixed, maybe could they do something extra? I don't think that the recycling plan does enough here. And I would like to see more done on it.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that transfer stations, like you said at the very beginning of your statement, are business. And so economically speaking, they're going to pull out something that's hazardous. They're not going to throw that into the trailer, but mostly they're going to push the garbage into the trailer as quickly as efficiently as they can, because they've got more trucks lined up coming in, and that's what pays all their bills. And that, unless you change a state law in some manner to restrict, like the state of Wisconsin has no recyclables allowed in their landfills. And I'm not saying that's effective, but it's a little bit more of an incentive to keep recyclables out of a landfill. We don't have any such law like that. We do ban electronics. Julie spoke with me about solar panels at our tour, and I said, if we can create a law that bans solar panels from the landfill, but it has to be done on a statewide basis. We're taking garbage from transfer stations outside of Will County. Making an ordinance for Will County would not be effective and could actually jeopardize the business profits of transfer stations in Will County.
So what about partnering with other industries who would go in and work alongside these people in the transfer stations to collect these recyclables that might be used in these other businesses that are coming out that are using like this old plastic and stuff to be mixed with concrete to make this super strong, lightweight concrete, like things like that. Like, are we have any exploration into that sort of industry?
The Illinois Sustainable Technology Institute will partner on programs sometimes to explore certain things like you're talking about. I couldn't speak to each program that they do and the grant funding that they receive for those.
And if
Well,
I-
I'd like to see it in this plan.
Well, I think what Marta was saying, and I agree, I think going further would be better, but that's something that then we need to, go to our state and, House reps and say, hey, we want this more significant because they're doing it within the confines of what's there. We can absolutely try to go out and do those things, I think is what you were saying, and we can work with them to help that, but I don't think
So
it's
the-
something we can enforce.
So the 55, and I'm not saying enforce, I said it's something that businesses learn by their pocketbook, okay? So if you're saying you're shooting for a 55%, of redirected, in that effort, okay, to employ some of these different agencies that'll work alongside these industries that use that type of waste or recyclable material, offer incentives for that transfer station, because you're reaching your goals of your 55%. Maybe it goes up to 60 or 65 because you're actually sorting this stuff out, and you offer them incentives, which is better for business. I mean, I get it. It has to work for business too, but they learn by their pocketbook. So I'm just saying, I would like in this plan for that to be explored. I don't think it does enough. That's all. I agree with a lot of the stuff. The education's great because you can't sort out recyclables at the residential level. But you could teach people, hey, this is what is good for the environment and this is not good. It wrecks the process, better to do it over, in a composter or whatever. That's good. But on the commercial and industrial side, I think that needs to be explored more.
And it's something we can do. Member Balich.
Yeah, I had a bunch of questions that pertain to this. And you said that the current plan is similar to the plan that's being proposed. And, then my questions are based on, a lot of it is on tonnage, but the old plan has a limit on tonnage. The old plan didn't want to take in all kinds of garbage. They wanted to make the landfill last longer. That was in the old plan. That was throughout the whole thing. Now you go to the new plan, you don't have that. You don't have a cap for transfer stations on how much tonnage they can take in and out. At least that I could find. I mean,
We did not have that in the last plan.
I thought there was a cap of like 17 tons.
I don't,
That would be light.
yeah, that wouldn't be. that
17
much.
tons would be light.
Yeah,
But that's-
I don't think that was.
Then I didn't, you can cross that up. There's no cap and there's still no cap.
Right.
And then, we're increasing the amount of tonnage because we're increasing the volume that's coming in from other places, right? We added more places than originally on the old plan that can bring it in.
Speaking about the landfill specific,
Yeah. So originally, the idea was to preserve the length of time that the landfill would be allowed to be going. And then it seems like we're increasing the tonnage, and then it was said that we're increasing the tonnage because we're gonna make more money off the RNG. But we never saw the actual dollar amounts to compare. But the point I'm getting at is an RNG facility is, and I don't know the exact numbers, so I'll make them up. So I'll make them stupid, so it's not confusing. If the RNG can reuse 100 tons, and that's it, there's no more than that. And we're taking in 200 tons right now. That's 100 more tons than we really need. So there's no immediate benefit if it's at capacity with 100 tons. So now, if you look at it the long term, you do it long term, if you're always using 100 tons to keep your RNG plant working at capacity, then why do we need more than 100 tons of garbage? And it seems like this thing is like saying, well, we should increase the tonnage. Well, the garbage isn't going nowhere. So if we just keep it the same or reduce it,
I reread the entire plan yesterday, and I didn't see a place where we called for more garbage going in the landfill
we're-
in the plan.
It's more for the next agenda.
But I mean,
Yeah, I think that's where that goes.
It's involved, this is a big circle. This is the plan, and then you got all this other stuff that goes around.
This is the solid waste
Waste plan,
plan.
right, and that's, so I think that's what the focus should be here, is we're trying to figure out.
Well, to me, I'm just looking at it like, I think that we need to make it so that we have less garbage going in there.
So I
So
think,
the
'cause-
solid waste plan should be,
so are you saying that, because within the plan, I, Member Balch, they've increased per person, like
Right.
to 9.2 pounds. And I believe, Marta, I think you said at the landfill, it was 7
taken-
pounds before.
No,
So
it's not about the landfill. I'm
it-
sorry to
it-
interrupt. Just to
no.
clarify that number, that's the generation
Right, oh.
total that we calculated for
Okay.
the entire county. That's commercial, that's everything.
Right,
the
In,
question is more about why are we, like, originally, we didn't take from going out to LaSalle. Now.
I think that,
changed
I
it.
think that goes,
But I'm just pointing out that we don't need anything that's going to increase tonnage. We already have a problem that we have to get this built. And the solid waste plan is, okay, we're going to go over it real thoroughly and.
Right.
fine. But that's a piece of everything is like a piece of the pie. So when you're doing a solid waste plan, it's got to also take in consideration the RNG. Because it's talking about what kind of waste we're bringing in and how much, right?
right,
And we're talking about
Right.
tonnage of garbage. We're talking about all different things. And I'm just looking at it and saying, well, it's awful confusing to me why things are like they are. And I'm just I'm bringing this up just from like the statement when you said, well, it's similar to the last plan. Well, this part might be similar, not the same. But now when you go to what's all involved, because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction and a consequence. And so what are some of the consequences in this by the changes? And I don't know what they are. And I don't want to see the tonnage keep going up. That seems silly to me. And like we reduce tipping fees, that's not in this,
no,
but
well, I don't
that
think,
comes later.
right, that's,
a
That comes
separate
later.
issue.
But I'm just-
right, that goes with
That's
the,
in a different part
yeah,
of
that's
the.
the next, yeah, that's a
discussion,
different
but,
part of the
I mean,
discussion.
all that
This is
stuff
just about
related.
what we take in and what's within the plan of what kind of waste we can take in, if I'm,
Right. But
explain that,
what
right.
I'm getting at is everything is related.
right, it all goes into it's all part of the landfill discussion, I get that. But this is just focusing on the actual plan and what kind of things we can take in into the landfill and into the,
it's a solid waste
Right,
plan.
right,
It is
right.
not a landfill
right,
plan.
that's the, yes.
And that's the difference I think you need to keep clear, because it can be very confusing. And especially as we talk about things like the tip fees
Right,
or.
that has
any-
nothing related
Yeah,
to the
it's
plan.
it's nothing to do with the
Later on.
solid
Right,
waste
so
plan.
we'll get to that
No,
later,
I
on, but
get what
remember-
I'm saying is a little confusing, but it's all interrelated.
it is, but I want to make sure that for this, we were just focusing on the questions within the plan. Member Butler, you have a
Okay,
actual plan
So this,
question.
this item we're on right now is
Yes.
about the solid waste management plan, okay? And like I said, I read through all of it. I liked it, but I would like there to be more in-depth area of action or investigation in this plan about what I talked about. Does everybody understand what I was talking about?
I do, I guess that,
Does everybody did it make sense? Because that,
I just wanted to, as I was sitting here mulling what you were saying. So the plan is meant for us to be able to actually expand on any of the items in it or contract on some of them as we're moving forward. And of course, we're dependent on budget. We're dependent on the policies that are being set by you at the time. So there is a section for business in the plan. There, we have education that we offer to businesses. Any kind of business can call our office. They can ask me to come over. I can help them do a waste audit. I do the same thing for our departments if they ask us. Our educator does the same thing for schools.
Mhm.
And so we can actually help them figure out where they might save money. If you'd like us to do outreach to transfer stations to see if there's ways that we can partner with them to do, that's something that actually is perfectly doable in the outline you have in front of you.
Right.
So
I-
what I would like in this, I would like it spelled out, and I would like it spelled out that we are investigating a recycling plan based on products that use recycled materials, and those, let's call them scrappers, even though typically they're known as, guys that take metal, but agencies that would be willing to go in and try to collect this at the transfer stations when it's still collectible. When it gets to the dump, obviously, it's not collectible. And this is an area where I think you could increase the redirected materials to even a higher number. And I'd like to see it in this plan.
So I guess,
And I would like to make a motion that you have a recommendation to have it added to the plan.
As you mentioned,
Yeah.
Mr. Butler, that businesses, though, it's their pocketbook that speaks to them.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these transfer stations that also haul their material to material recovery centers that sort this, all that's privately owned. Are you proposing that we pay for this out of county funds? Because that's the only incentive
So-
that's really there
so
unless it's a state law that
Pay for
requires it.
what?
This proposal that you have about providing incentives to increase this type of plastic recycling and make this lightweight concrete and brick. The only way that's possible would be to somehow require that by state law, or that be somehow be economically viable for them to do that, or the county pony up funds to help pay for those incentives, which we don't have budgeted.
So by redirecting our waste, there's no value in that?
A certain extent there is, but
What
these
extent?
private
What extent
companies,
what extent of the value is there to that? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to save space and we're trying to throw away less waste. We have education programs for families and stuff like that. I'm just talking about adding a little bit of a program into this waste management plan. I mean, I could go through and pick apart a lot of different things, but I thought overall it was pretty good. But I thought it was missing one important area with commercial and industrial waste. And I thought it could be handled at the transfer station. You're the waste management experts. I just identified with my knowledge, knowing where this waste ends up and how it gets to the dump. And the only part of this chain that it could actually be separated would be there. And I would leave it to you to come up with those ideas.
So-
And I would use incentives, okay, to do that. And that wouldn't mean that we required a law. So I am making a motion that get added into this waste management plan. Do I have,
all right, hold on, I'm gonna say something here.
Clarification.
What I've been told before is that the solid waste plan, even once it's adopted, it's a living document. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So that means that we can go back in and add things such as Member Butler is talking about, or kind of, tweak things as this goes on. It's a living document.
Absolutely.
So, because I know that this is an important thing and I don't want to, rubber stamp anything. I understand that. But I also think that this is something that we can continue to talk about and continue to have come, but it doesn't necessarily need to be here right now. We
it's
can-
not, they have to put
right,
it in there.
right,
And they'll
but-
have to bring it back before.
Could be
so that we
amended
can look
later.
at
It can be amended later. That is what I was going to. Marta, did you have something to
Just if
add?
anybody
Sure.
wanted to look at the reference, page 47 has assistance to nonprofits and private businesses. And so while there's no incentives currently done, there is the opportunity for us to go out and to assist businesses in trying to find ways to reduce their waste. And so, yeah, this entire program could fit into that area.
And I could see that, so I would like to see it added about looking for specialty products that use recycling, not teaching people how to recycle their waste, but actually use that recycled material as an ingredient for a product that they actually going to reuse or remake.
Kim was gonna add something to add.
I guess what I was going to say was that my understanding is that from Ms. Green, is that there is no prohibition against doing this, that it can be added to the solid waste plan, and that it's not up for just a vote today. So if Mr. Butler would like to ask that that be included, they can decide whether or not they're going to include it. And when it does come up for a vote, if it's not included, you always have the right to vote against it.
There you go.
So, all right, so yeah, I guess Member Butler, if you want to repeat what your,
Yes, so
Motion.
I was just making a motion.
it's
that-
not a motion, it's just a request.
A request, okay.
Okay. So, all right, so then,
Question.
yep, go ahead, Member Parker.
Okay.
I turned you on.
Thank you. So on the front here, it says adopted. So even though whatever date it's adopted, back to what Katie was saying, this can be amended.
Yes.
Yes, at any
My
time,
next question is about the incentive. I don't understand who is paying the incentive.
right. No, there was,
There isn't
you want to turn
There
your,
isn't one right now. That is what his suggestion. So
Right.
who would be paying that?
right. Hold on.
The value of the
Yeah,
incentive.
Dan, you're not on. Yep, you can turn yourself on.
Because I'm
So
not really following.
I guess we're trying to figure out try to explain this.
So there's a value in having less garbage directed or more recycled materials directed elsewhere rather than going into our dump. Okay? But there's also a value in the ability to get companies to search for this recycled material. So the incentive would have to be offered to the transfer company for being able to aid in us redirecting more recyclable materials away from the dump and being reused in a different place. How much the incentive is, I don't know, okay? And that's all things that can be worked out. But the idea is that we're involving businesses to reuse some of this garbage, this recycled materials, so that it doesn't end up in the waste plant. And most of these materials, like these plastics, are not aiding in the RNG plant. The RNG plant wants biodegradable material, to build gas. And so that's going to be all your food waste and your landscaping, lawn clippings and leaves and stuff like that. So, that's a whole industry, a whole side of the numbers that aren't addressed or there's no easy way to fix, and I'm offering a possible direction. And I just, I don't see why anyone wouldn't want to investigate it. And if you put it into a business, hands, a lot of times things get better. You got guys that are coming in and they, oh, we can use all that plastic. Come on. We got people that buy that because they make this, but it would be up to the transfer stations to have to work with that, and they would have to figure out a way. So if there's no value in recycling these materials for us, why do it? Why do it? But forget recycling. We don't need to do it. Let's not worry about any incentives or costs. There's no value in it.
Member Van Dyne.
So I don't think the question has been answered. Is the transfer station going to pay an employee to stand there and try to collect material that's not worth their time and in value, their time per hour? They're not getting the value from the product. They're losing money. Is the county going to give incentives? That is the question. Who's paying for it?
Right.
That's why you didn't get a second on this. I
So-
like your passion, but you have to answer the question in order to get support.
Well, we
Who
have
is
to
paying for
listen.
this?
You have to listen.
I've listened three
No,
times.
I
I've
didn't
listened,
have-
sir.
All right,
It's my,
right, gentlemen, I think.
it's my floor.
Right, just the chair then.
We've listened to the statement 3 different times, and this committee still doesn't have an answer on who's going to pay for it. That's my belief why there's not a second on this motion.
Okay,
There's
so
no
I
motion,
would
it was
like
just
to
a
respond to
recommendation.
that,
Hold on,
okay?
hold-
Because the statement was not accurate, okay? He didn't understand what I said, so I'm going to clarify for him. We're not asking for people from a transfer station to be monitoring garbage. We're asking them to work alongside collectors, independent collectors like scrappers, but who are looking for different recyclable materials, who would be allowed to extract that stuff on site because they're their own business providing that for another business. So we're not asking for them to pay for that. All we're doing is offering some sort of incentive to the transfer
All right, so-
company to actually work with those
Member
people.
Butler, I'm gonna let Chief of Staff to kind of clarify this on what we can do here, because again, I don't think we can, I don't think this would be the time to force something in there that we don't have a plan for. So go ahead. So,
Member Butler, I guess what, if I understand correctly, is you're requesting the members of land use who created this document to include a plan in regard to what you just put forward with the different options as to who may or may not pay for this incentive and what the cost would be.
I'm sorry.
I thought that was pretty clear. Go ahead, Kim.
I don't think I could say it
Okay.
concisely the second time. If I understand correctly, you're requesting the members of the land use department who put together the solid waste plan to include a plan in regard to the incentives that you have set forth with the information as to the cost and who may or may not be responsible for paying them. And that you would like that information to review as part of this plan.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's go with that. Okay.
I mean, it was more
Yes.
than I would had intended, but.
Okay, but I think that would have to be the route that we would go because just to, there's too many questions on that, right? Like, who's paying for it, I guess, is the question. So I'm gonna let member Newquist.
Thank you. I'm also, I understand a little bit better what you're asking, but I'm also wondering how in the world would we even monitor this? How would we, I mean, I understand there's no enforcement. I mean, I think your theory is this would be something voluntary that could happen at the transfer station level and somehow they would be incented, whether that's a lower tipping fee, whether it's a direct payment. I'm not sure how, but my question is how in the world would we even monitor that? Because if they send us garbage with recyclable material in it, we're not going to know that.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because how do we calculate what is being redirected? If that statement is to be true or factual, how do we in fact determine what is redirected? And I guess we don't, we just take a guess.
No, so, all right, so,
There's the reporting
ahead, Marty,
ordinance
and then-
that we've had on our books forever, almost. If you look in the beginning of the plan, the foundational part, it explains that we receive over 300 reports annually from anybody who hauls any material in the county. So you're picking up garbage, you're picking up recyclable traditional items, I call them, the bottles, cans, paper. Okay, you're picking up specialty items, electronics. You have to report that to us. You're picking up grease. You have to report that to us. You're picking up landscape material. You have to report that to us. Even if you're Joe Schmo with just a couple of mowers, you're supposed to report to us. So that's what I rely on for all of the material that I use to figure out what our generation rate is and then how much of it got diverted. And all of that's broken down in a table in chapter 3.
so I'm
So
gonna,
do you feel that that is an accurate way? Or do you feel that if you had a separate company that worked in the transfer station, okay, their own business, not requiring money from the county or anybody else, and they were able to extract enough garbage from that landfill, and then consequently, there is a scale on site that could be weighed. Do you feel that that would be an even more accurate of how much material is being rerouted?
I like to think that I'm a fairly imaginative person. And as I've sat here, I cannot imagine a scenario where a private sector transfer station would put an employee or a contractor that comes in danger while they're tipping trucks and pushing that material into trailers. They have a hard enough time grabbing propane tanks and motor oil or something else that's going to be a serious problem for them off the floor. So for them to try to do that would be very dangerous. Incentivizing them would be absolutely necessary because it's going to cost them time and money to actually sort it, and it won't be covered by the scrap metal that they're able to collect.
So, hold on.
Just to be clear, I
Member
just
Bu-
wanted for the record that I did not asking for transfer companies
not
to
on.
provide. I'm not asking, for the record, transfer companies to provide a labor force or to pay people to take that.
I understand.
I'm asking them to be incentivized to allow other companies to come in and do the work, and they will make their money by reselling it to other industries that use that.
and so I think as to the chief of staff's request, if you wanted to ask that of the landfill or the land use committee, we can do that. But right now, I don't feel that that's something we can put in here at this time. Dave, go ahead. I'm sorry. I know
No, well,
you've been
thank
sitting
you,
there
and
so
I
patiently.
I appreciate the discussion,
Yeah.
and my comments are more procedural from my experience
sure.
with the county. In the past, when we've dealt with, ordinance changes as well as, through the planning process, for example, the land resource management plan changes, and we go through a committee process for vetting it and final adoption or approval. I know that, staff's preference is that we move this along in a timely manner because just everything going on. However, given all the committee comments today, one thing that we've always done in the past with other committees with codes and plans is that rather than taking comments from individual board members at a committee to address, we've always requested that it be a committee consensus on every specific issue that needs to be addressed before it moves forward. And that's what we had asked today. If the board does, or the committee does not move this forward to the board, let's say in August, and there are issues that need to be addressed, that it be a committee consensus specifically to what those issues are with direction to the staff as to what they want to accomplish for the next meeting.
Did you need to say something, Mr. Hardy? Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to mention that we do have a
No.
solid waste consultant here if we want a response directly to Mr. Butler's request, if you want to hear that or not.
Yes, go ahead. If you,
Devin?
But that was it. So,
okay.
okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Member Balich, did you have something as?
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know, I used to be
No.
in the garbage business
No.
and trucking business, and most companies that have recyclables have a cardboard bin, glass bin, a plastic, because they're selling it themselves. So now what you're talking about, that might be a good idea, but it'll cost the taxpayers that live in the houses a bunch of money, because someone's going to pay for the cost, whether it be an increase at the county for incentives. So it's a bad idea for incentives. And it's a bad idea to think that I used to work at XL Disposal. That was a transfer station. They had conveyors and they would pick up the garbage and they'd run it through a conveyor, and they had people on a line that pick off certain types of it. Okay, they stopped doing it after about 4 or 5 years because they weren't making enough money on it. So the bottom line is, when we're talking about trying to force people to do things, that's out, for me, it's out of the question to do that, because there's going to be a cost that the county's going to pay, or the taxpayer's going to pay at their house. Somebody's going to pay, because those businesses are not going to do it because it's not fair to them.
Chair Ogawa.
Thank you. I do have to step out for a meeting soon. So I think here's the thing, which you guys should look at this plan, see if there's changes to it that you want, or if you like it. Additions to it, I think I would suggest directing the land use department to go and look into that. We'll hear from Devin Moose first, but directing them to go look at it and see if it's feasible, what the cost might be, blah, 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 how they could do it. And they could take the time the next month to however long to get it done. Once they have it, they could bring it back. At that time, since this is a living, breathing document, you could make an amendment to add that to it.
Right.
If it becomes something that's they find is good, it's feasible, and it's cost effective. But that way you could go ahead with this plan, get it passed, whether you do it today or not, it's up to you guys, but that way they can move on with that, and then they can work on this other thing. So I'm going to step out because I have to have a meeting, and then, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Moose, nice seeing you again. Hello.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just briefly, I've been participating with units of government on over 60 solid waste plans nationwide. This plan is very consistent with the standards of other communities nationwide. I'm also the lead engineer for design and permitting of over 30 transfer stations. Industry is set up to remove the valuable stuff at its source. So if you're a producer of any type of material, generally, if there's value in the waste material or residual material, that's segregated out. That's just business sense, and it's done very effectively at almost every industry. So we also know from waste sorts, where we've done waste sorting of the garbage, either at the transfer station or at the landfill, that there's very little usable recyclable material in there. Because one, it's contaminated. Two, it's been removed either at the source of production or at the home. Most of it has been removed by the homeowner at the source. The 50+% goal is an admirable goal. That your current diversion is very high. So you're not going to find a lot of valuable stuff in the garbage at the landfill. And third, you're just not going to be able to accommodate sorting of any kind to that degree on that transfer station. We're always pressed for space. Transfer station floors are very, very dangerous. We segregate usually homeowners from those floors because of the danger. People get killed in this industry literally every year. You're not going to have the room, you're not going to have the time, and it's going to violate every safety protocol that every facility has been designed and permitted to. In fact, most of the permits prohibit scavenging in the transfer station itself.
Thank you. That was very informative. All right. So does anybody else have any other, Member Van Dyne, let me turn you on here. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, with your permission, I would like to approve the solid waste management, make a motion to approve the solid waste management plan 2024 at this committee.
It's not on the agenda for approval at this time. I really
Okay.
just wanted to use this month for review. So
Okay.
next month is when we would be approving it.
Fair enough.
So that would be my hope, that if there's, but if there's, we have another month. I think we've spent a good amount of time on this today. And I know people have things to do and we have to move through the agenda. So everyone now has a hard copy, so we can, go through and whatever. But I wanted to make sure we had time for discussion to talk it out, but having read through it myself and trying to stay awake while reading it, I wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable with it, and I also wanted to make it clear that this is a living document. So I will bring it back next month for approval. And then just one moment. And then at that time, we also know that we can change it and amend it as needed based on the, needs of the county. Yes, Mr. Herdy.
Just wanted to point out, I think it was page 70. We did find one table that was duplicated instead of, so we would be subbing out that page with a different page to include the accurate or proper table.
Okay, so then we'll look forward to that change coming at us next month when we come to adopt it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so, moving on from there, we have no other old business. Was question on tipping. I think we had some questions. Yeah, I'm not on. Sorry, I'm not on. We had questions about, how much are we taking in that is just from the county and how much was coming in from outside the county? So, you had those numbers.
Yes, it's a percentage, approximately 15% of the waste is from out of county.
Okay.
Approximately 85% is from within the county.
And is there an actual number on what that amount is that we take in, say, annually?
The specifically, it would be about 130,000 tons.
Okay.
Of the 864 would be what's coming from outside the county. So that accounts for about $483,000 approximately.
Anyone, Member Balich, I know you always are interested in the tipping fees. Do you have any questions on this right now? Okay. I just want to make sure. All right. All right, Member Butler.
So I just wanted to know if we had ever come up with a metric that let us know what percentage of garbage increase has come in that has accelerated the RNG plant, or if there's some sort of metric that says, because I understood one time you said that it was said, not you, but somebody said that we had enough garbage right now to power or to produce methane for the RNG plant for 30 years. And then the lifespan of the current RNG plant, all the parts, was about 35 years. So do we need any more garbage? I mean, and if so, is there any metric that says that a reduced tipping fee actually increases the amount of gas that's made? And maybe there hasn't been a time, but I just wonder, is there a calculation? My biggest problem with this whole thing is, you could reduce the tipping fees. I don't know, when I dump, it's up to like almost $80 a ton. So I started out at like 65, so it's actually gone up. And, did we just make it more competitive for, the people that handle it, and get it to us by lowering our fee? And we're running out of space. We're gonna need more money. I just think nobody's proven to me that reducing the tipping fees is gonna aid in our gas production. And I would like to know if there is some sort of calculation for the future, some sort of metric set in place that would tell us that actually helps us.
The primary metric is the inlet volume of gas coming into the RNG plant. Currently, it's around 2,200 to 2,300 SCFM, a standard cubic feet per minute. Our plant is running or operating under capacity. It's built for 4,500 SCFM. So we have capacity for another at least 2,000 approximately SCFM. So the more gas that's coming in, the more revenue that the county is receiving, non-tax revenue. As that volume of gas increases, that's going to be good for the county. It's going to produce more revenue. That's only going to increase if the landfill continues to accept waste, and additional waste will then eventually cause that inlet volume to increase. And the whole reason that tipping fee schedule was implemented earlier on is because the county board members at that time understood that the increase and the continued stable inflow of waste to that facility would result into additional gas generated that will bring in waste, which is the feedstock for the RNG or the gas, and that will continue to increase over time. That plant, as you know, has a large amount of bonds set against it, and those need to be paid back. So the higher the revenue is from the RNG plant, the faster those can be paid back, and the more revenue the county can realize from that plant. That's not going towards operating costs or debt. So that's the entire goal of.
So what is your calculation for how much waste do we need to put in there to get us to full maximum output?
Well, maximum output is going to be, those are different calculations that I don't have off the top of my head, but they have a construction
Those are
project
the-
right now, which will produce about another 200 to 300 SCFM is what they're estimating. So
That's exactly the metric we're looking for, right? Because we're running out of space. We're saying we need more garbage to make more, that our plant doesn't put out enough gas. We need all this extra garbage, but we don't even have the space to hold it. So my question is, does lowering the tipping fees really help us? And if it's a matter of producing methane gas, doesn't that gas have to be collected? I mean, it's naturally evolving in this waste, and then it's seeping out into these pipes. Would our filtration system that would collect more of it do better? I mean, how does bringing more garbage in gonna double that? That's what I want to know.
because it increases the amount of gas that is produced because you have more garbage there that is decaying over time.
But just to produce twice as much, how much garbage will we need? I mean,
To produce twice as much,
yeah, to fill it to capacity, how much garbage will we need?
probably going to need another, I don't know, maybe, the end of the life of it, probably another 10 million tons.
10 million tons. And how long would it take to accumulate 10 million tons of garbage?
Well, about 10 years,
10 years.
2034 when it's full.
So when the thing is full, we'll be at maximum methane output.
We should be very close to that.
Interesting.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions on that topic?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so with that, we know that we are going to either be expanding or purchasing land. So I guess this would be the county executives. Yep. Thank you, Mike, for coming up. So if we could, we've got some landfill purchase discussions. So have we been in, is that an ongoing thing?
Can you explain, like?
So I guess what we're looking for is, are there places at this time that the county is looking to purchase land for?
At this time, no.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you the simple answer. The short answer is no. Do we know what parcels
We're looking at,
adjacent to this landfill site that we would be looking at? Yes. Anyone with a computer can look that up. Half the parcels are owned by the US government. The other half are not. So in short, no, we are not actively seeking anything. We know what's out there. To go through that process, and I'll just give you kind of so you have some understanding. This is a long process. You know, we're looking at numerous years on this one. It would be, if you were to do something, appraisal and an option to purchase pending siting agreements, right? So you got to go through the EPA, you got to go through Pollution Control Board. You'll get sued 30 times in the process. So it's a long process. So you do not want to be holding a large tract of land that you overpaid for, presuming that there would be a revenue generation portion of it, and that no longer exists based on siting. So it would be an option to purchase agreement with potential landowners.
okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Mahoney on this at this time? All right. And Mr. Blackburn, I guess we are looking for waste management. We're trying to see if there were any audits or anything done by waste management. Come on up.
Hey, good morning. There is an annual audit. Thank you. There's an annual audit that's required.
There you go. There you go. Now you're on.
Thank you. Yes. There is an annual waste management landfill audit that is done. We've made it available to several of the committee members. If anybody would like to see that, we can make it available to the full committee. There was a separate ad hoc report that was requested that we've provided. If you'd like to see that to several of the members, and we can do that.
All right, Member Berkowitz.
Katie, perhaps Duffy should send that report to
I was just gonna ask.
finance or executive.
I was even just gonna have him send it to Kim, and then she can get it out to all of us.
Put it on an agenda, one of our committees.
Oh, okay.
Probably
Okay,
finance.
sure.
Duffy, didn't you used to come before finance, like pre-COVID days, I think?
No, that was
Yeah.
maybe since 2014. That was
Okay.
during Melissa Johansson's.
Okay. But I think that would be a good place for it, and then, get it on the agenda. So then not only does the committee have the opportunity to review it, but also the public. So
We can,
thank you.
great, okay. Yeah, if you could send those reports to our chief of staff, and then,
Yeah, and it is, I think I made it available to you, and I'd be happy to make it available to everyone. As far as the monitoring question, I think that's a good question. But if we can add any assurance to the quality of information that the land use department is providing, we would be more than happy to put that into our
I guess-
audit plan.
yeah, I was gonna say, if anybody has any questions, you can just direct them to me, and then I'll forward them to you, so you're not getting it from multiple people. I'll just send you a bulk. Do you have a question for, okay, hold on.
So
Oh.
this is an audit that you made from receipts collected. So waste management doesn't provide any type of audit. I mean, waste management doesn't provide any audit to you on their end.
Yeah, based on the contract and the different data that we receive based on total revenue received from the landfill, the fee rate, the ton subject to Will County revenue, the total tons received. We'll look at the total rate increase or decrease, and then we'll have some explanation for those differences in rates and changes. And again, like monitoring, there's not really a very good individual pinpoint monitoring or audit that can be done, but it can show to some sort of trend and help educate the board. The audit is listed under the contract as a compliance audit, just complying with the contract that has been entered into by the two parties. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, like I said, just message or email those to Kim, and then did that answer your question, Dan? Okay. All right. Thank you so much
You
for,
didn't talk at all.
Oh.
here.
yeah, well, thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, under other new business, I have no other new business. Is there any public comment? Nothing online, any public comment? Last time. I have no reports or announcements really. The only thing is just really, if you're looking for some fun nighttime reading, just dig into there again. And so your final questions can come forth next month. So we can move the solid waste plan forward. So everything that goes along with the solid waste plan can start moving forward. That was good read. Well, I'm glad you thought that. And then I do want to just say, for the members of us who did go to the landfill and the RNG plant, this last Tuesday, I thought it was very informative, and I appreciate, that was put together and that everyone who was there, Mr. Moose, Marta, you got, it was very informative, and I was happy I was able to be part of that. No need for executive session, so if I can get a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, next meeting is, oh my gosh, September 5th, 2024. So, yay.